Hello there, Ramblers, and welcome back to Reese Rambles, my weekly podcast all about the latest comings and goings, movings and shakings, and indeed all the rest of it in the worlds of vintage and retro computing, gaming and technology. Hope you're all doing well out there, and indeed, perhaps if you'll allow yourself to admit it, just a little tiny bit, just a little smidge, perhaps maybe, feeling a bit festive as well, because of course, this is the last Ramble before Christmas, and in a few days' time, it'll be the big day. So I hope you're prepared as well for whatever you have planned, whether that's seeing friends or family or just having a nice quiet one in. Hope it goes well for you, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side. And on that note, I will just say that I know a lot of podcasts and a lot of YouTube channels out there are planning on having some time off over Christmas. Well-deserved time off. I know a lot of them have done their kind of year-end wrap-ups and things. I don't think I will be, actually. I have some big plans for the channel and indeed for this podcast as well next year, and I think I'm going to be working on those over Christmas. And if I'm in here in the studio, I'll probably do a ramble as well. Not quite sure what form that's going to take, whether that's going to be like a year-end thing or if there'll be some actual stories to report on, because of course a lot of the gaming websites will be winding things down as well. We'll have to see. But anyway, for this week, I certainly do have some things to impart upon you. So I suppose I better get on with them. And the first one is an update on a story that I reported on last week, and indeed something that I've been covering for quite a while now. So this is this racing game on the Atari ST.E., this brand new 50 FPS racing game, which recently changed its name to Faster, and of course, perhaps more importantly, had an official release last week. It was unveiled at the Silly Venture Atari demo party and quite deservedly won an award as well, won first place. So very, very good news. That was last week's news. This week's news is that the source code is now available as well. So if you want to see how this works and see how the STE works, I mean, this takes advantage of pretty much every single thing the Atari STE has to offer. So you've got the enhanced colour palette, it uses the blitter, it uses the DSP sound chip, it uses the hardware scrolling and all sorts of stuff. So a real kind of masterclass in getting the best out of the STE hardware. And you can have a poke around and look at the code yourself and see how it all works. So this is the announcement, and it does come with a couple of points, I guess. The first one being that, in fact, I'll just read this straight from the announcement. So the code is not representative of best practice, clean, maintainable, or for beginners. And I have to say that's also true of a lot of the code that I write as well professionally, I have to say. And also the code does show a high-performance STE game using modern paradigms, which is perhaps the most interesting aspect of it. So this is written in C and 68,000 assembler. And it's hosted over on GitHub, as you might expect. So there's a Git repo, and we have all of the commit history and stuff as well. So 399 commits. So not only can you see the actual sort of finished product and how the source code actually works, but also the whole process that he took to get there, which is really fascinating to see. One thing that I don't see here is any kind of license. I'm not quite sure what license this has been released under. Usually that would be made quite prominent on GitHub, so I don't know if you can fork this and make your own derivatives of it, stuff like that. That's not entirely clear. But anyway, just something to be aware of if you are going to be poking around with it. So we have some credits here. So of course, design and programming by Jonathan Thomas, also known as Chicane in the demo world. Music by DMA SC, who of course is really well known in that world. Some absolute banging chip tunes in this. And we've got Jamie Hampshire, who did the sound effects and mixer stuff. We've got some additional art by Carl Morris, a big name in the Atari world, and Scott Elkington. We've got the YM playback stuff by Zerkman, and the original PCM mixer by Masteries. So there we go. I know I, and of course many others, have been giving Jonathan the full credit for this thing all along, but of course quite a team of people behind this, various aspects of it as well. So worth pointing out. And we've got a really nice guide here to how it's all laid out and how to actually build it. Of course, there's a make file, so you can just build it from source yourself. No problems at all there if you're set up for compiling such things. And even a nice list of dependencies as well. So really nicely laid out. PHP, what does it use PHP for? That's interesting. Very interesting. Mind you, I use PHP for all sorts of inappropriate stuff. So not really surprising, I guess. But anyway, there's the code. Of course, this will be linked down in the usual places. If you are watching this on YouTube, it will be down in the description box below. And if you're listening to this on one of the many and varied podcast platforms out there, hopefully they also pick up the description and show that in your podcasting app or whatever. Anyway, that's that. And of course, that will also be the case for all the other stuff that I talk about in this ramble. So worth going and checking out if you're at all interested in a retro coding. And that also kind of brings me around to a bit of a thought that I had quite recently as well about the future of the channel, I guess. And perhaps dabbling in some retro coding myself next year. Like I say, it is my day job. It's something I've kind of avoided because it does feel a bit too much like work. But maybe 2025 is the year I get stuck in. Maybe start with something simple, bit of 6502 stuff on the BBC maybe. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. I'm talking about myself again. Source code available for faster. Links in the usual places. That's all you need to know. Let's get on with the next story. If you're old, like me, and my analytics tell me that that is indeed quite likely the case, you'll no doubt remember a little collection of games for Windows 3.1 called the Microsoft Entertainment Pack. It included such classics as Jez Ball with the little bouncy balls, and you had to kind of divide the thing into sections and get down to a certain percentage. There was that mouse game as well, of course, which I can never remember the name of, but you kind of had to push stuff around and get to this. Was it called like Nibbles or something like that? I think that sounds about right. And of course, there was Chip's Challenge as well, famously started on the Atari Lynx. Microsoft released an official Windows port as part of that pack. Really, really cool top-down puzzle game starring a protagonist who was absolutely in no way based on Bill Gates, of course. But I'm here to talk about another game in that pack today. And that game is perhaps one of the most fondly remembered, one of the most iconic games from the Windows Entertainment Pack. I am, of course, talking about SkiFree, everyone's favourite skiing simulator. So the goal of this game was essentially to guide the skier from the top of the ski run all the way down to the bottom of the mountain. Very, really kind of cute little, very basic pixely graphics, but loads of fun. You had to jump over the jumps and avoid the rocks and the trees and things, avoid crashing into the ski lifts and the other skiers. And infamously, at least in my case, every single game would end with the skier being eaten by a Yeti, the abominable snow monster, as it was apparently known in that game. Now, I did report previously in a ramble quite a while back that the author had actually updated this. This isn't the story this week, but I should mention this because it's quite cool. The author actually updated the game for the 21st century, I guess, and made a 32-bit executable. I suppose it would be 64-bit if it was for the 21st century, but you know what I mean. It runs on modern operating systems, which the original 16-bit version doesn't. So very, very cool. I think it's otherwise pretty much unmodified, but of course I'll link to the official homepage so you can go and download that if you want. Now, there has been another development, and I'm not talking about this announcement here on the homepage saying that SkiFree 2 is in development, which I've only just spotted, but apparently that's a thing, so I'm going to have to keep an eye on that one. I'm talking about a game inspired by SkiFree, and indeed inspired by that infamous abominable snow monster. See, I knew I'd get to the point eventually. Now, this is an announcement from someone called Pieter Montelou. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Apologies if that's not quite right. And I spotted this over on Blue Sky, but this is a Unity game prototype that he started working on that asks a simple question. What if you could play as the Yeti from SkiFree? So the story of this game, and there is a short video here, 40-second video. Basically the goal of this game is to destroy cabins for resources. You can devour skiers for sustenance to survive the night and reclaim your mountain. And in this short video, we can see the Yeti going absolutely mental here, trashing all of these trees and eating skiers and smashing down cabins and stuff like that. And it looks fun. As you might imagine, it looks like loads of fun. Looks hilarious. As far as I know, there hasn't actually been a release of this yet. So, yeah, just spotted actually, we've got some kind of meters in the top corner of the screen here. So we've got health, hunger, energy, and wood as well. There hasn't been an official release of this so far that I can see. But if and when there is one, I will report on that because this just looks crazy, like I say. So, yeah, it uses all the same graphics and all the same assets from what I can see. And I'm surprised nobody's done this yet. I'm surprised nobody has done SkiFree from the point of view of the Yeti. But there you go. Of course, Christmas themed as well with all of those, there's Christmas trees and the snow and everything else. So right on brand for a Christmas ramble. Some unexpected news this week from one of the greatest DOS racing game series of all time, if you can believe it. And one that I certainly remember with a great deal of fondness, and I'm sure a lot of you out there will share that sentiment. And quite rightly too, because particularly the first game, which was released in 1995, really did push the boundaries of what was possible on the PC and on DOS, fully software 3D rendered, and really pushed the early Pentium CPUs to their limits. And also, in the case of that first game, had an S3 Verge accelerated version, which is why this series came back up on my radar a couple of years ago when I did that roundup of S3 Verge games. And of course, that spawned a series which also took advantage of the latest and greatest 3D accelerators of their day in the mid to late 90s. I think it's fair to say that this game really did kind of herald the start of that whole golden era of 90s PC 3D rendered gaming. So it's great that there has actually been a new development in the series after all these years. Anyway, I'm waffling now. Of course, I'm talking about Screamer. Very fondly remembered, like I say. There was Screamer 2, there was Screamer Rally, and then there was Screamer 4x4, which apparently, according to Wikipedia, was released in 2000, 2001, depending on where you are in the world. And then that was it. That was, getting on for 25 years ago now. No news in the world of Screamer. The series just kind of fizzled out, and that was the end of it. Well, I'm very pleased to announce that this apparently was announced at the Game Awards this week. Not something I was really paying attention to because, it's new stuff. But this is very much on my radar. So, yeah, announced at the Game Awards this week, Screamer, as they're calling it. It's a reboot of the series, and it looks really interesting. Really interesting. So we have a trailer here. It does say not actual gameplay, so I don't think there is any actual gameplay footage in this teaser trailer. It's still a couple of years off, apparently. It's not due for release until 2026. But we've got this interesting mixture here of this kind of cartoony style, anime style, and fully 3D rendered. Of course, it's got all the ray tracing, bloomy stuff that you might expect from a modern game, and it's got all this kind of cartoony stuff in it as well, which, if this is what the actual final game looks like, bearing in mind this is a series that was known for really kind of pushing boundaries graphically and stuff, I think it actually could end up being quite interesting. Certainly kind of, over and above it being just a basic sort of 3D racing game. So it's a very short trailer. This is over on the IGN YouTube channel. Of course, I will link to this in the usual places, as always. And it's available for wishlist now. So, yeah, releasing in 2026. It's going to be available on all the consoles, the PS5, the Xbox Series, and the PC. Looks like it's available on the Epic Store as well. Uses the Unreal Engine, apparently. Just looking at the logos on the trailer here. I suppose it doesn't take a genius to work this out. And there's also a bit of a description as well. So, Screamer makes a return. Check out Screamer in this reveal teaser trailer for this upcoming reimagining of the 1995 racing game from developer Milestone. Screamer returns in the form of a futuristic, story-driven racing game featuring animated cutscenes created in collaboration with Japanese animation studio Polygon Pictures, and featuring the voice talent of Troy Baker. Screamer will be available on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC in 2026, combining plot themes of human will, revenge, love, and greed with classic sci-fi imagery. Screamer immerses players in the clash between personal desires and external forces that seek to control them. The journey unfolds through the eyes of a diverse cast of characters involved in a street racing tournament organised by a mysterious figure. I like this. I like this as a concept. I think that this is a really good starting point that they could use to do some really kind of interesting stuff, particularly graphically, like I say. So certainly going to be keeping an eye on this. It's nice to have an old a DOS series come back, and hopefully they don't screw it up. So, just before we dive into this week's video of the week, I have a couple of little updates for you on some stuff that I have reported on recently. Now, the first story that I want to, first thing that I really want to shout from the rooftops, I think, is S.T.A.L.K.E.R. S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 patch 1.1 has now been released, and I know a lot of people were holding off on actually buying this game until a lot of this stuff was fixed and patched, because some of the early reviews, and quite fairly so, pointed out some technical issues with the game. Now, I must say, this is a time-honoured tradition with the S.T.A.L.K.E.R series. The original games were well known for being not only groundbreaking and really kind of pushing boundaries, which there you go. It's a bit of a theme for this ramble, I guess. Not only that, and being very ambitious. This huge kind of living, breathing open world that they built around, of course, around the nuclear exclusion zone around the Chernobyl power plant, which is where these games take place. Also quite well known for having a few bugs and things, and Stalker 2 was no exception to that. I think we can forgive them this time around because of the whole situation. I mean, they're a Ukrainian developer, but they have stuck at it, and they have addressed a lot of people's concerns about this game. Now, this patch, I actually sat down to play Stalker 2 last night, had an hour or so free, and I thought, you know what? I'll shoot some more mutants, and I'll look for some more stashes and stuff. I'm a few hours into the game, I must say, at the moment, and I haven't found anything to be particularly game breaking. Obviously, there is some kind of odd stuff going on, some odd graphical glitches and stuff like that, but the story still works perfectly fine, and the side missions and everything else, and it is a bloody fantastic game. It's really impressive for what they've done. But I sat down to play it, and Steam informed me that no, you can't play this game now. It's in the process of updating. And I went to the download screen, and it was 110 gigabytes, this update. And if you know anything at all about my personal situation at home, I kind of live in the countryside, and my broadband is laughably slow. It's abysmal. To cut a long story short, the game, the update didn't actually finish downloading until 6 o'clock in the morning. So first thing this morning, I thought, well, I'll just fire it up, just check the patches applied okay and not completely broken anything. Just, just ready for the next time I have to sit down, I have an hour or so free to sit down and play this. And then I ended up playing the game for about 2 hours this morning. But don't tell anyone that, because I shouldn't be playing games in the day, really, should I? Although, arguably, I suppose it is kind of part of this and part of my job. So, yeah, maybe I can play games for a living. Anyway, this is patch 1.1. It's the patch that everyone has been waiting for. And the list of fixes, these release notes, this is insane. I mean, if you are watching this on YouTube, join me on a little journey to the bottom of the patch notes. But, I mean, look at this. Look at all the stuff that's been fixed. They have been busy, haven't they? I mean, this is impressive stuff. They've done a load of balancing stuff as well. Not just bug fixes, but, game balancing stuff. So I guess we'll go over and give it I can't read all of this. We'll be here until, I don't know, Christmas next year. But quite famously, the games feature this A-life system, this artificial life system. So life kind of goes on while you're not around in the background. It's kind of this, you've got all these different factions and all these different mutants and animals and things that are kind of interacting with each other while you're not around and kind of living their own lives and stuff based around this AI system. And it was actually broken when the game was first launched. Now, I didn't really find it all that kind of game-breaking, but it is kind of a big selling point of these games, and it's a very ambitious aspect of these games. So to see that they've actually fixed a load of stuff to do with that, and it is kind of fundamentally working now, is really, really cool to see. Loads of improvements to the AI. This is one thing I noticed this morning, actually, the AI improvements in the game. The enemies are actually quite difficult to kill now. And I'm in the middle of a mission where I'm basically in the middle of this big military base trying to take down all these heavily armed guys. So not a welcome change as far as I was concerned, but good to see. So absolutely loads of AI improvements, balance adjustments to costs of things and weapons, damage, that kind of thing. Crash fixes, performance and optimization. Yeah, some people had run into some performance issues. I didn't really see any particularly, other than the game taking a very long time to start up because of its building shader caches or something. They haven't changed that. It still does that, but whatever. Improvements to cutscenes, facial animations, that kind of thing. Some glitchy bits, things that were glitching out, that kind of thing during cutscenes. Fixes to interactable objects. You can actually click on these. Ooh. Oh, so there's some spoilers in here, but they've very kindly censored them, so you have to actually hover over them to see them. But yeah, they've fixed a load of stuff to do with the physics engine, stuff like that. Of course, this is all built on Unreal Engine. Loads of story-related fixes, so people were getting stuck at various points in the story a bit later on, stuff that you could get yourself into situations where the story would get stuck and not advance. They fixed all of those, or at least a load of them. As well as the side missions and sort of encounters with random characters. And yeah, fixes to various enemies and graphic effects and player gear and player state adjustments and helmets. There's so much stuff here. Player guidance, game setting, menus, fixes for the menus, fixes to the achievements. Yes, I did see a couple of reviews that said that some of the achievements were actually completely unachievable because they were broken, so they fixed those. Fixed an issue with saving and loading. I didn't run into that personally, but apparently it was broken in some circumstances. And over 500 fixes for foliage, texture flickering, bugs in navigation meshes, collisions, errors in object positioning, contextual actions, VFX-related fixes, non-destructible objects, and more. So yeah, this is the big one. This is kind of the game that it should have been from day one. But no complaints from me. It's just really cool to have such a massive list of fixes in time for Christmas. And I did notice this morning that they're also releasing patch 1.1.1. In fact, I think by the time I get home and fire the game up, it will probably have already been released. And they promised that one was going to be smaller. I'm not quite sure how small it's going to be, but yeah, hopefully it is smaller than that 110 gigabytes, because I'd quite like to play some Stalker 2 over the weekend, please. But there you go. And the other story that I just wanted to update you on, that ended up being a lot longer than I planned, but whatever. The other story was the SuperSega saga. So the SuperSega was I guess it's still an ongoing thing, this console that was announced by this Spanish team that supposedly supports the original Master System, the Mega Drive or Genesis, the Saturn, and even the Dreamcast, so you can play all of your original games on it. FPGA based, just like the Mister and the Analog and kind of those other FPGA based systems. And it's becoming increasingly obvious that this thing is probably a scam. I have in the past outright said that yes, it is a scam, and I am still of that belief. And the latest development this week certainly doesn't help in that case. So this is my good friend of the channel, Iain Lee of the telly, and he has actually secured an exclusive interview with Alejandro, the kind of the guy behind the project. And I mean, you can see from the thumbnail here, the guy looks like some kind of Rasputin type character smoking a cigarette. And this interview is pretty crazy. I mean, the guy evidently isn't the least bit interested in being interviewed. Ian's co-interviewer, Catherine Boyle, does actually speak Spanish. So when he kind of gets a bit awkward and a bit difficult and kind of, I don't know, tries to dodge some stuff, she does actually intervene and start speaking Spanish to him, to Alejandro. He puts cigarettes out on the floor. He wanders off to make his dinner in the middle of the interview. I mean, the whole thing is a complete and utter shambles, but it is quite entertaining viewing. And of course, I mean, Iain Lee's a professional. He's been a TV presenter for years, and he handles it absolutely brilliantly, as does Catherine Boyle, to be fair. And it's just a wild thing to see. So yeah, the title is Wildest Interview Ever. I nearly made this my video of the week, but it's an update on a previous story. But it's 36 minutes long, and if you have the time over Christmas, I would definitely go and give this one a watch. And if you want even more entertainment, do have a dive into the comment section as well, because there's people defending this guy and all sorts of stuff going on in there, as you might expect with the whole Super Sega thing. So yeah, hats off to Iain for such a inspiring and weird and crazy interview. I think you handled it very, very well, and well worth going and having a look at as well. But yeah, from one video to another, I suppose it's time for video of the week. Now, I must confess, I haven't really watched much YouTube this week. I've been watching a lot of Try Guys stuff with the wife, I suppose, and some sorted food stuff like I always do. There was a really impressive Abroad in Japan video, but none of that's really on topic for this channel. So, yeah, sorry about that. I've just been through my YouTube history, and I have picked something out for you. But it was slim pickings indeed. And it's a channel I recommend fairly often on a fairly regular basis, and hopefully it's one that's come up on your radar as well. But if not, very much worth the reminder, because I really enjoyed this video and I thought it was actually very clever and very different for this channel, which is unusual. It's unusual for someone who's been in the YouTube game as long as this particular person has, to come up with kind of original and different ideas. So really interesting to see. It's Clint, of course. It's LGR. It's his Christmas video this year. There was some doubt as to whether he would actually be doing a Christmas video. I mean, the LGR Christmas videos are a fine tradition that go all the way back to the beginning of that channel. And there was some doubt as to whether he would be doing one because of his whole circumstances this year, with his house getting destroyed by a tornado. And I mean, it was absolutely crazy. But yeah, Clint has come back very, very strong and put together a Christmas video for us, which is really lovely to see. So it does star his famous Christmas clones, as you might expect. Hopefully that's not too much of a spoiler. And this one, like I say, it's a bit different for an LGR video because it's a reaction video. So this is Clint watching the Christmas special episode of the Computer Chronicles from 1985. Now, Computer Chronicles was a very long-running series in America. It had Gary Kildall on it, the digital research guy, as one of the presenters, and they had it was a proper who's who of kind of the early computer industry of the time. They had Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and all sorts of people on as guests every single week, just kind of showing off their latest offerings. I mean, I remember watching one with the Atari ST when that was very first announced. They had that on, and the Amiga, and really kind of cool time capsule. And yeah, Clint goes through and he gives his observations. And of course, he's very knowledgeable about all of this stuff. And I thought this video was really entertaining and also really educational. I actually learnt a few things about some of the computers and things of 1985, as well as some quite interesting products. Like there's a little handheld computer thing that just seemed to sort of vanish from existence and has never been heard from again, which Clint does some digging on as part of this video. So yeah, it's 29 minutes and 20 seconds long, and if you haven't watched it yet, maybe sit down on Christmas Day, maybe in the evening when all the festivities are kind of winding up, and give it a watch, because lovely cosy video, as you might expect, from LGR, and very interesting and educational too. So that's my video of the week, and that's all I have to say on that, really. And oddly enough, an owl has just flown into my window. Yeah, no, this isn't some kind of weird joke or bit or Harry Potter reference, I guess. I just went and kind of popped out the door for a second. I mean, it's late at night. I'm all alone here on this little, this kind of little office development. Yeah, just literally just as I was opening the door, I heard this almighty thud. Didn't know if I'd broken the door or something. Out the corner of my eye, I saw something move, and I turned and looked at it, and it was a barn owl, and it had literally just flown, flat out, smack straight into my window here, turned around and flew off. And it seemed perfectly fine, so hopefully the owl's okay. But yeah, one of the stranger things to happen since I've been here in the studio, I must say. But yeah, we get owls and we get deer and all sorts of cool wildlife around here. So anyway, that's the thing. But on that note, that's all I have for you for this week's Ramble. As mentioned before, hopefully I will see you in the same time and the same place next week. And of course, wishing you and you and yours a very Merry Christmas. And yeah, I'll see you on the other side. So hope you have a fantastic festive season. We'll do the Christmas New Year lull next week, and I'll try and find something entertaining for you. Hopefully it doesn't involve owls. Okay, that's all I got for you. Bye.